When horses get emotional, okay, there's a direct correlation a lot of times between the amount their emotions go up and the amount that their head goes up. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and if we remain so closed off to the possibilities of what could help our horses, then we miss the opportunity to help our horses. So today we're going to be talking about a running Martingale, and I'm on June, a horse that I've bred and raised. And when it comes to the running Martingale, some of y'all may be watching this going, why in the hell is this guy using a running Martingale? I've ridden thousands of horses, and she was the first horse that I came across that I found could really actually benefit from this training tool. Okay, and I don't say that lightly because most horses out there don't need it. I'm not a fan of people using tacking equipment to patch over parts of their horsemanship because they're not willing to put the time in to get their horses broke enough. We got to put the time in, and this is very situational. I want to share this with you though because it's been this piece of equipment has been extremely beneficial for June. I've learned a lot over the last year and a half or so of experimenting with it. When horses get emotional, okay, there's a direct correlation a lot of times between the amount their emotions go up and the amount that their head goes up, okay? And at times, you guys might have seen horses that are just running scared through a field. Where's their head? Is it down on the ground? Is it flat out of their withers? Or is it up in the air? Kind of like an Arab. It doesn't matter what breed they are, right? Their head is going to be up high, like a little Akelteki, just hauling ass across the field, right? Because they're emotional. And when they get emotionally, their head comes up. When we look at our horses and when we ride our horses, we don't want their heads all the way up here because it hollows their back, it pushes their rear end out behind them, and they get out of position to do any job. I don't care whether you're riding jumpers or cow horses or trail horses or whatever the case is, okay? We want our horses to be able to use them biomechanically correct. And this piece of equipment does help the horse from getting their head too high. But it is not a tie down. It does not force their head down. And I'm going to show you, for example, there is weight in the ring, but I want you to watch how much it actually takes for the Martingale to actually come into action. So I'm going to start with lateral flexion. If I go to bend the horse here, right, at this point, all the way through that bend, the ring, she doesn't run into the ring. The ring does not force her head to come back down. Okay, I'm going to bend her the other way so you guys can see from the other side. You can see that there's still a loop, a drape in this rein. And as I take a hold of her here, that ring never gets activated. That Martingale never actually gets taken a hold of. Okay, I can take a hold of her and get her soft with two hands. And guess what? You see how loose that Martingale is? That Martingale is not putting her head there. Okay, in fact, I don't know that we're going to, unless I go get some cows and work a cow here in a second, that we're going to see her really elevate her head. But with this particular horse, as we've been getting to higher level performance, there's been moments where the emotional pressure, the mental pressure that we're preparing her for would sometimes spill over. It'd become too much. And she would throw her head up in the air, and by my definition, would run off, okay? She would get out of position, she'd quit listening, she'd frolic around like a leprechaun, and those moments, she wasn't learning anything, it wasn't doing anything beneficial, and it was what forced me to kind of explore a different option. And so I'm gonna just, so that she doesn't have to stand here too much longer, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask her to jog around here in a second, and I just want you guys to watch and very objectively watch how this Martingale works in the fact that here it's not taking a hold of her, okay? That's still directly off the direct rein of the snaffle, right? Right there, it's loose, okay? So when her head is flat out of her withers or even slightly above, see right there when her head comes up, like if I'm taking a hold of her, it's still not pushing, not causing downward pressure on the rein, okay? If she were to really get her head up, okay, then when I take a hold of it, it would start to bring her head down. And so one of the things that I've found I really like about this Martingale that I did not expect was the fact that I can ride almost my entire ride without ever directly using the martingale itself. But in a moment where she were to kind of lose her marbles, if she were to, it would take a hold of her, and it would put pressure for her to bring her head back down, and it would de-escalate the situation. And because it did not allow her to get her head so high that she became even more emotional. And that was something I did not expect in riding with this martingale. And so now we've moved past a lot. We've moved past quite a bit of actually even needing this martingale in any of the reining work, okay, that we're doing. But now we've got a group of cows down here, and we're starting to introduce her to cattle work and do those types of things. And there's times where it can get a little quick, and the martingale is merely there to help her maintain a beneficial position. Okay, it's there to help her stay in a position. She already knows where to be. She already knows how to use herself properly, but occasionally she needs a little bit of a reminder of where to be when things get quick, when things get athletic, and she has an actual job to do. And so years ago, if you had ever said, Colton, you're going to need to ride your horse in a martingale, or you're going to need to ride your horse in a martingale to help that horse be more successful in cows, I've been like, well, then I'm just not going to do it. Okay. But sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And if we remain so closed off to the possibilities of what could help our horses, then we miss the opportunity to help our horses. And over the last year and a half or so, I've experimented extensively with this martingale. I don't feel like my horse is dependent on it. I can definitely bring her out here without it on and be just fine, right? It merely comes into play with this particular horse when emotions get high. Now, that does not mean that it patches over her own emotional regulation, okay? We still have to develop her mentally and emotionally to where she can handle those high pressure situations. That way, when we do go show and we don't have the martingale on, that she's prepared for that, right? But when we're at home training, we can help our horses a little bit to be able to find the right answer and learn how to do things the correct way. It's just like an athlete going to the gym. They're going to use certain tools to make sure that they're training appropriately that they're not going to use when they go compete, okay? And so that's something that I've found to be really, really beneficial. Again, you don't want to use a piece of tack and equipment to overlook the fact that you haven't done the work that you need to do with your horse. That's something that I have constantly been auditing with this horse along the way to make sure I'm not using this as a crutch, but more to use it as a way to help her develop in her own education. And so coming from somebody that never would have saw themselves being open to using a piece of equipment like this, but has found it beneficial to the right horse at the right time, that's why I want to share it with you. So I hope that it helps you out on your journey. If you decide and end up in a position where you feel like it could be beneficial, then now you have some very objective information about how it works and the benefits of it that it can have for the right horse at the right time.